Yeah, we've had the same conversations as we've had since I'm here. And as I'm not sure if I said it last night, but we fight on and we try to improve. That's what we all try. But the conversations have been the same as they've been for the past 1.5 years.
For you at the moment, is there an anger, or maybe that's too strong, is there a frustration or a feeling of being let down by your players at the moment who aren't necessarily reaching the standards that we've come to expect from them?
No, not at all. Although I do agree with you that our standards, and with our I mean the team, have not been of the standards that we are used to and that we want. So we think we can play better than we do. But last season, when we did really well, there was a lot of focus on certain individuals, and I always said it should be about the team, and the team makes the individuals look very good. And if the opposite is happening, we should also look at the team and not at the individuals. So that's where it's about for me.
You also said that you have to look at yourself. What can you do different, if anything?
Nah, that's not so easy to say what can I do different, but it's quite normal if you win or lose or draw that you reflect on a game. Which decisions have you made? What have you done during the week? All kind of usual things managers do if they win or lose. But maybe you do it a little bit more if you lose. You try to find the answer to what is needed to win a game of football. And in the end, it's about doing what this club is about, is keep fighting. And no matter how difficult it is, we have to fight together. But it would also be nice if we would reward ourselves in the moments we play well, because people are very focused and correctly about the parts we don't play well, but there are definitely large parts of the games where we do play well and where we do create a lot of chances, and we tend to forget to reward ourselves in those moments, and every small mistake or small error immediately leads to us conceding a goal, and that is a very bad cocktail to have.
Kind of follows on to my final question, is how pressurised with the situation is this then for you as a group, for you personally, and how inhibiting can that pressure be?
No, there's a lot of pressure if you work or play at a top club, and even more so if you start losing more games than this club or this players or this manager is used to. So then there's always pressure. But there was a lot of pressure last season as well for us to win the league, and now it's a different kind of pressure because we've lost so many games. But what it does to me, I can just do the same, but I don't have to play. So maybe my job is a little bit easier if it comes to this, because I think it's hard for every player if you are in a bad run of results, if you go down immediately after 3 minutes, and then you play a good first half, and then 10 minutes after halftime again you concede. So we get knock after knock after knock, which is hard, but that's why I keep saying that, especially when that happens, we have to keep fighting, and that's what we've done so well last season, and what this club is about for so many years, and that's what we expect. The minimum what I and we expect is that we do this over 90 minutes, which is not always easy if you get knock after knock after knock.
That's our goal.
Can I just ask you about the fitness of some of your players?
Yeah.
Who obviously with his problem that he picked up, and how Florian and Alisson are?
Ali trained again with the team today, so we hope and expect him to be available in the weekend. Florian will have his final day of rehab tomorrow, so if that all goes well, he could train with the team on Saturday. And the third one was Hugo. Yeah, of course today was recovery, but they don't expect that it has to be a big issue. But yeah, games come fast, so let's see for the weekend. But it shouldn't have to be a big issue.
As far as West Ham are concerned as well, it feels like it's a long time for you that they're moving in a different direction now under Nuno Espirito Santo. They seem to have got a new wind and a fresh confidence of their own, I suppose. How do you feel that they're doing?
Yeah, like you said, he's having an impact on their results. He's done so well everywhere he worked here in England, and Didn't so well at Forest. Now he's doing well at West Ham again. So it's he's proven to be a difficult manager to play against, not only for me but for everyone, because he always has a very good game plan. And it's a tough team to beat at the moment, West Ham, which was different maybe than the beginning of the season, but we face them now, and that's why. We definitely need to be ready for a challenge, because that's what they will give us. Because they know, of course, after our recent run of results, that that's probably different for them to play against us now than it was 3 or 4 months ago.
Looking at the XG stats for the last 3 games, Liverpool's is 6.59 and your opponent's 5.39 combined. I just wonder what would you take from that?
Frustration. XG don't always tell you the right story, because I think it's also important when do you get those chances. So and after you concede, you tend to be more open than when you're 1 or 2-0 up. I think when we were 1-0 up against Real Madrid and 2-0 against Villa, we hardly conceded a chance, and that has happened in many more of our games when we were leading. But yeah, when you chase the game, you concede normally more. But I think a large part of this XG that we create is in the first part of the game as well. And that's why one of the players said today, and I just used that quote, we don't reward ourselves for good phases of the game or good parts of the game. And this is probably what is best shown in our XG created, because it's ridiculous. Because normally you score more than your XG. The amount of times you see a team scoring 3 or 4 goals from from a low XG value, and then if you see our XG yesterday evening, but yeah, I didn't need XG to know that we missed a lot of chances.
Welcome back to Team Talks. We're previewing the weekend's action. We're turning attention now to West Ham versus Liverpool. Everybody's asking this question, Glenn. And because it's your first time on Team Talks this season, you get to answer it this week. What is going on at Liverpool?
What is going on at Liverpool? How long have we got, Jules? I think when you get a good look at it, I know we've spoken, haven't we, the Diego Jota situation is obviously not a positive. It's I think it's very difficult, and it's probably a point overlooked to a certain extent. And a lot of people probably don't want to reference it because it's really sad. But I also think when we question the likes of Mo Salah, he's played the most games in his whole career with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. So there's an understanding and a connection. Same with Van Dijk. Van Dijk and Robertson have played together for so long. There's a connection. All of a sudden, that connection, even though Carragher is there to Virgil van Dijk's left, it's like he's lost his left arm, because he could almost control and anticipate and know everything that Robinson was going to do for the last 6 years. All of a sudden, he's got this kid that just runs up and down the line frantically, and he's like, just sit in and protect me sometimes. And it's about having the right times to go. I don't think Frimpong fit. Honestly, I think when you get a look at it, probably it was I fell into the trap. I don't know if you did or not. I thought it was a really good transfer window for Liverpool. But when I get a look at the profiles of the players and who's already there, I actually think it was quite a poor one. And I think they probably need to play with the 5 at the back. And then obviously you've got the top end of the field where you've signed Ekitike, who I don't think anyone could kind of foresee how he was going to adapt so well to the Premier League, and probably thought the opening weeks he would probably burn off a little bit. That hasn't been the case. He's their best 9 at the minute. And obviously when Alexander Isak, the hottest 9 in football kind of property at that time, comes available, it's kind of like you can't not take him, but then you give yourself a massive headache. When I look at Isak, he's not had a full pre-season. Again, he doesn't know those connections. I done a piece on him on Gen X about him running down kind of Liverpool's right-hand side all the time. That's never going to work, because that's Mo Salah's kind of space. So it's just at the moment, it's a mess. And I think it's almost like the old guys are pointing at the new guys, and there's a Mexican standoff in the changing room.
Everyone talks about the pre-season. Every former pro talks about the pre-season and the importance of that. We can't understand that. We're probably saying, we're 13 weeks into the season. How is that still a factor? What difference does it make?
Well, it's your foundation for the season. That's where you do all your work to bank in, so that your body is ready to take on the rigours of a Premier League and a Champions League season, that you can go week in, week out and at a level, an elite level, and maintain that level for long periods. Whereas now, he can never really get fit because the training load isn't the same. So obviously you've always got a game, so as your week goes, you might train hard. And I mean, it's not very often Liverpool have a clear week anyway, so if you work from a Monday to a Friday, you can work hard Monday, Tuesday, have a Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, you're tapering down into a game and then you're doing nothing. So really, when you look at his load, he's probably doing a little bit Thursday, very little Friday, almost nothing on a Saturday if he doesn't get picked, nothing on a Sunday, and then you're back around, so you're never getting that foundation and getting that kind of that bank of fitness.
Yeah.
Was that good enough, Jules?
No, it's amazing because, you know, right now in this period where I think it was on Saturday, we were saying 100 games in 48 days, and everyone kept stressing that all you're doing is recovering and playing, recovering and playing.
And also, it probably would have been beneficial when they signed him for them to say, you're not going to see him for 6 weeks. He's going to go away and he's going to do a pre-season, he's going to work super hard. But you've obviously just spent so much money on a striker. Everyone wants to see him, so you've got that kind of that desire to get him in probably earlier than what he should have been. Was it the Carabao Cup game where he played 45 minutes and then ran at half time, and they pulled him off because they're so eager to start him on the Saturday in the Premier League.
Darren, what it means now for Liverpool, as I mentioned, their worst run in 70 years. I mean, you know, losing the way that they did to PSV at Anfield, not something anyone could have predicted, even on current form. The question I have for you is what happens with Arne Slot? How much goodwill does he have? How much time did he bank himself by winning the Premier League?
Well, the thing is, you mentioned a couple of things that really did strike me there. 48 games in 100 days. And last week I spoke at length about Jota and the impact that I think Jota's passing has had on the squad. And you've almost underlined what I said last week. I don't want to go over that again because they were points that stand full stop. But those games mean that those players don't get enough time to focus on the most important things themselves. They want to support Jota's family. They want to support themselves as well. But they're not having any time to be able to process what has been a seismic event psychologically. And if you think about key players in the side, and they're the next fixtures, I look at these fixtures here and I couldn't sit here and back Liverpool to win any of them because the collective collapse that they've seen, that we can see in the side, it's unprecedented. And it's, to my mind, a symptom of what's going on there. They are struggling. The first few games where they were winners, that was adrenaline. Yeah, but players are not robots. And in this whole debate around Liverpool, there is this feeling that they could just switch off their emotions once the games begin in August and start playing and start delivering the points. If you look at certain players, Virgil van Dijk, forgive me.
Long team.
Virgil van Dijk, he raises his arm and makes an elementary mistake to give away a penalty in the game against PSV. Now, he's given away the most penalties so far in the Premier League as an individual. That's very uncharacteristic Virgil van Dijk. Mohamed Salah, a goal machine, lives his life the right way, he's in fantastic physical condition, yet he can't raise a leg and he can't do the things we know he can do. When Andy Robertson qualified for the World Cup with Scotland, he said that his thoughts are being dominated by Jota. You know, these are players who are struggling, and yet we're basically saying it's not going to lose his job. To me, it's crazy. Do
you think there's any accountability on Arne Slot? So when I say that, kind of, you're coming off last season, you're coming off Jurgen Klopp, who's heavy metal football, high intensity, and you had a kind of perfect concoction of the squad being like that, being so drilled into that way of thinking and playing. Then obviously you bring Arne Slot in, who's maybe a little bit more technical and not quite as intense, and that made for an amazing season. The mix of both those managers still in the players' thoughts. But all of a sudden we go into the new season and that kind of old way, and Klopp's way, is starting to die off, and now we're seeing Arne Slot's more technical
Well, I think
style.
we saw that last season. I think we saw the much more forensic football rather than the heavy metal season.
Yeah,
last
but there was
season.
a nice collaboration between the two of them at times.
But I think that we've not seen any football this season because these guys just haven't turned up. I think if it was one or two players, you could say, well, maybe that's not as much of a problem. It's a collective collapse. All the stats, as you've been saying, sometimes I joke about them, but these are much more serious stats because I think these say that there has been a collective collapse. You can get a new manager in there, but is that new manager going to do anything about the grief that, for example, a Salah might feel? One day he might wake up and think, I can't stop crying because I can't get over losing my teammate, my friend. There's this big debate with some of the fans who are saying, listen, do we continue to celebrate Jota in the 20th minute of every game, or do we stop it because we're planting in the minds of the players this thought about this guy who was their friend and their teammate? I think this is much more than football.
Yeah, we need plenty more time to talk about it. I just wanted to move on to the game itself and West Ham. Will they be looking at this Liverpool side and saying they are there for the taking, especially someone like Callum Wilson, who scored twice in the game on the weekend?
Yeah, I think they will. I think anyone who comes up against Liverpool at the moment know this is a good time to come up against them. And this man is definitely starting to score goals for West Ham. I think when we see these goals on the screen here, there's a nice array of them. His movement there against Forest was superb. This is a different type. You can probably question the goalkeeper to a certain extent. This one I really like. This is just kind of Callum Wilson at his best, thinking outside the box, almost this little deft touch, and then barely even planting his feet and twisting that into the top corner. So I think there's signs for West Ham that they are getting better under Nuno. Listen, I think it's still going to be a long season, without doubt. I think there will be 3 teams, though. But this weekend, I think their tails will be up.
Well, Liverpool are, and to be totally honest, in free fall, but did their problems actually start to set in at the end of last season? So get this, since they were well beaten by Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final in March, Liverpool have won fewer than half their games, just 14 out of 29, and they've scored just 1 more goal than they've conceded. I mean, that stat alone, I mean, it's quite shocking, isn't it, Roberto?
I was actually aware of that because I have some Liverpool friends, and they were telling me that it was already started at the end of last season, and the Preseason wasn't very good as well, and they continue now in this season, and I mean they are conceding a lot of goals, which was not the case last season, where they won the league. So they are creating chances, so there's a positive as a manager. You look at it and you're thinking, okay, we're still creating chances, we're not scoring many goals, because it does change the game. I mean, there's some stats as well. If you score the first goal, the probability of winning the game. So that makes a huge difference in the game. But they are not in a good place at the moment. They know confidence is low, because when you don't win games, even big players, star players like they have in their team, they lose the confidence, and then you have to start rebuilding that. So it's a bit of a mess at the moment.
Yeah. It definitely is a bit of a mess. I mean, what do you make, Alan, of Jamie Carragher's comments? I mean, it feels like every now and again we're saying on Premier League Friday, it feels like we're saying, he's got a week left to save his job. But do you think that's fair? Because he's saying that he should require a minimum of 7 points from the next 3 games. They've got West Ham, Sunderland and Leeds.
I just want to go back to something that I think is going wrong at Liverpool. And one of the problems you have at any level of football, forget about the top level, at any level, is conviction in what you're doing. And they show no conviction from back to front offensively and from front to back defensively. They're just not at it. And if you're not at it, you're not going to win games. Now, is he under pressure? I think he is under pressure. And I think any manager with those statistics that are against him, even if he was in a mid-table club, would be under pressure. Being at Liverpool, this is a significant problem. Now, when you say lack of conviction, why is that? Well, he does have new players. He has some excuses in terms of coming into the group. Younger players, the 2 fullbacks he changed, which haven't been a success. But he's making some rash decisions as well, like substituting a centre-half at 65 minutes and putting on an offensive player. Stuff like that shows pressure is getting to him a little bit. Now he needs to answer the call, because they go to West Ham, and that with West Ham on the back of a couple of wins, it's going to be a difficult game for him. And I think that pressure will only increase. And Jamie Carragher's words won't help the cause, by the way, because obviously he's so respected.
Yeah, between the fans.
Of course. So, this is the sort of the pressure that gets created a big club like Liverpool when you got stats like that.
Well, one person that is very, very, very knowing of that pressure, Roberto. I mean, it's something that you've been aware of, obviously, because you won the Champions League and the FA Cup. But then with Chelsea, you ended up losing your job in November of the next season. And the craziest thing was you were only 4 points off of top at that moment. So, I mean, when you see what's happening to this Liverpool side, are you thinking for Slot, this is a real possibility he could go?
Well, unfortunately, or for a manager, when you lose games, you're going to get under pressure. That's the nature of the job. So, in a big club, especially, if you lose one game, it's it's a mini crisis. If you lose 2 in a row, it's a full-blown crisis. So I can only imagine that the environment right now at Liverpool is not very good. It's very negative. And the only way you can come out of it is by winning a game, and you start slowly rebuilding the team, the confidence, and the 3 points just help you go up in the table as well, and people start talking less about you, because at the moment the main focus is Liverpool, because they're the reigning champions and their stats are not so good. So that's the only way, win a game.
A lot of Liverpool fans, and I know there's been some chat in columns, etc. They keep going back to one moment in Liverpool season last year, and that was when Slot went to Ibiza. Right, he's won the league, and he's decided, even though there's a few more games still to play, I'm going to go to Ocean Beach and I'm going to go in the DJ booth. I mean, what did you make of that when you saw it? Because Jamie Carragher's come out. He said, it's a kind of small club mentality thing to kind of down tools at that moment.
It was a strange move to do that. But I don't think there's any significance, if I'm honest, to the results and everything else that's gone on. I mean, what you've got to look at, because big clubs make big decisions, and that's what Roberto was, inkling at a little bit. This isn't gone unnoticed upstairs, these results. And they're 12th in the table. This is a team that is on the back of winning the championship. So I feel also, I'm not so sure the intensity at the training ground and maybe had dropped off, because he inherited Klopp's intensity, which I was told was like full on. It was like 110%.
Yeah.
And Slot's is a little bit lower than that, maybe a lot lower, and they've lost that intensity that takes you into games. And that you can name a number of issues, but they certainly need to find a solution in the conviction of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And players need to believe in the message that he's giving them, and then go out and try and carry it out to the best of their ability. And Roberto, I tell you, sometimes it doesn't really matter how they play on Sunday. They just need to win any old how.
Yeah. I've got to ask about Mohamed Salah as well. Obviously, it's something's not clicking for him this season. He's not kind of projecting the same numbers, obviously, that he was last year, where he had this incredible run. We're going to look at this, though, as well. As you can see, it's quite similar to like the first 12 games that he's had in comparison to last season, right? He's covered more distance. So there's a lot of shouts about saying, his legs have gone. He's actually gone further, but that XG is really far down, and obviously his output. A few people have obviously said, with Mo Salah, we only hear from him when Liverpool are winning. And as a manager, do you think Slot would be looking to his more experienced players to kind of publicly back the side?
Well, I think it's difficult to sort of criticise one individual when you have definitely got a team structure there that's not working. And those stats you see are somewhat warped by the fact that the team's not playing well.
Yeah.
So, you could look at his individual stats, but you could look at the team stats and say, well, how is he meant to get, an XG of 8, for example? So I think he's just part of the problem, part of the conviction. I think teams are very wary of him. They're doubling up on him all the time. He's very difficult for him to have any kind of room. So, there's a lot of factors there. I wouldn't put it at anyone's door, the issues they're having. I think it's slightly unfair. I think there's more going on than that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as you say, it's showing it in the team performances. But Roberto, for you, what do you think? Where do you think it's going wrong necessarily for Mo Salah? Because he's not getting the best out of his game, clearly.
No, I think it's a team issue. Not. Totally agree with Arne here. It's a team issue, and these are the players that carried him last season.
Yeah.
And they're human beings. It's not like every season they're gonna improve or get better and better and better. Unfortunately, he's having a little bit of a dip in form, still creating or having chances to score, but not scoring as much as in the previous season. But it's a more of a team problem than just an individual problem.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing though about Salah, when there was all this chat about the possible move to Saudi Arabia and, you know, the riches that he was going to get, and, you know, the new contract chat, etc., etc. And then he signed the new contract, and then of course there's been this dip of form. So there's been a lot on him, I think, emotionally as well, in terms of having to deal with all of that. And I'm not sure he's settled himself yet in terms of the new contract, his new future at Liverpool, the new manager that come in last year. And I think he is a slightly kind of lost. I think if I was the manager, I would be putting my arm around him. Yeah. And I think Slot has tried to do that. I see a report this week saying that, you know, he plays. And I think there's some, I can understand why he's doing that. I think this guy probably needs help rather than anything else.
What have you made also, obviously, because a lot of people are saying, you know, the senior players, obviously they need to step up and kind of help what is going on. Where would you say is the next point of contact for Slot, I guess, to kind of go, help me here, what do I do?
Yeah, I'm sure he has a group of players that he can speak to, probably, you know, your captain, your vice captain, team captain, some with them or with the players that he has a close relationship, and the ones that probably have a little bit more experience as well, and just try and get a message across to the team through them. But there isn't really a magic recipe for it. You know, we've all been in these situations where we've had a little bit of a losing run and some more than others, and you know, and then you try to figure out, you know, how we're going to get out. But it's just simple step, you know, just break it down and start with the basics, defend well, try to attack well, be compact as a team, and then try and win the next game.
Absolutely. And Alexander Isak as well is a player that the stat came out. He's the first Liverpool player to lose each of his first 4 Premier League starts. I mean, that's no goals in the league, but he's had a total of 7 shots. I mean, where do you think it's going wrong for him?
The projected, you know, transfer to Liverpool, and we all assumed that it was going to be a massive success, but it's been a problem, and I don't think Liverpool suit the way he plays it, because a lot of his goals at Newcastle were from fast crosses and in balls in behind, and that's an issue because Liverpool don't really play like that. So I think he's in a team that are not playing well. I think the chances he usually gets are not coming his way, and he is finding it very difficult to adjust.